Hello, everybody, and welcome back to RedVsRed podcast, your favorite Manchester United fan channel. My name is Sporadiclese. I am here today with the Saffron Man as usual, and we just want to kind of talk about the match today that we had against Chelsea at Old Trafford. Initial thoughts, Saf? How's everything going? How did that sit with you?
I think the excitement was there before the game. I thought there was a bit of energy, and it wasn't bad. I think it's the best we probably could have hoped for, even though we were ahead. I think Chelsea were kind of dominant throughout the match, and we'll talk about those key battles going forward. But we had our chances. It was hopeful, and I think we should really be thankful for a point overall. But there's definitely some performances I want to be talking about, man. What about you?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I think, I think that there were only a couple of things that really gave me hope, at least this match, and that was kind of our ability to defend the wings. In my opinion, I thought that Mazraoui and Dallo had a pretty decent day, but just kind of stale on the attacking front, and a little bit wasteful on the part of one person in particular that I'm sure we'll talk about here in a little bit. But I think a point is good in terms of the result and what we were expecting. I called this a 2-2 draw, ended up being a 1-1 draw.
Probably should have been
I think
2-2.
that
Yeah.
it should have been 2-2, absolutely. And so right off the bat, the one person that I do want to kind of talk about that was kind of wasteful was Garnacho today. He's been our most productive attacker this season thus far, and he had any number of opportunities and just could not seem to even get it on the frame. What did you
The chance that he does have was almost goal of the season material. Like that's the balance that you get with Garnacho, right? But yeah, he probably should have put at least one of those away. But mate, he was so close to scoring an absolute screamer, and he's always that type of person. He's always on the knife edge. He always do something unpredictable. And yeah, we're saying that he needs to be more clinical. Mate, the whole Manchester United squad needs to be more clinical. But he's given it a good go, and he's dangerous every time he gets on the ball. It's like, it just reminds me of Ronaldo, like when he first came in, where he did step overs for the fun of it, and he was kind of learning his craft. Now Garnacho's not the same ilk, but he's doing things in that way where he's taking those risks. He's not that 100% team player yet, but he's still moulding as a person and crafting as a player. And mate, give him another couple of seasons, and hopefully that decision making, like Ronaldo did, will kind of switch into this phenom of a player, and we'll start seeing the end product. But mate, if that goal would have went in that he took, mate, that was such a screamer. I thought it just didn't dip for whatever reason. Fantastic strike, but I think we're just disappointed we didn't get a result, but yeah, he did well.
Yeah, I guess my point was that he had a few opportunities that are very standard opportunities for him that he's normally at least putting on frame that he wasn't even testing the goalkeeper with today,
Right.
And that's very unlike him. He's at least forcing a save or a parry, something to that effect. I was just hoping for a little bit more in terms of the shots on target today, based on the shots that we had. So, overall, I like the lineup itself, and who we have in what places, and I thought that Mazraoui actually was very good on that left with Rashford whenever Rashford was on the left. I felt like they had a good bit of chemistry there today.
Mazraoui is on the verge of being a buy of the season contender. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, it was £13.8 million or whatever. You find another value for money player, in the Premier League, and I'll have a discussion. But for 30, he is looking. He's slotted right in. He's taken everything in his stride. He looks useful on the left or the right. He's ambidextrous. He's up and down. He's touch tight when he's marking. He's bombing on when he's attacking. Sometimes when we're attacking, he runs so much that we're a man behind because he's still in the box as they're counter attacking. That happens like 2 or 3 times a match, mate. But he is just absolutely everywhere. I can't. Yeah, we're only like 10 games into the Premier League, but yeah, we're a quarter of the way through pretty much, and he's probably one of the best signings of the summer of all clubs in the first quarter of the Premier League. Can he keep it going? I'm not, but yeah, he's made a great name for himself at the moment. I don't know what you think.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And I thought that he was going to be one of those top performers, him and Zirkzee in particular. The latter hasn't worked out quite as well as I had hoped, but obviously to your point, he's been one of our top performers, and for the price that we brought him in at, I mean, an absolute steal. Very productive on both ends of the ball, both sides of the pitch, and getting up and down the field. And he's even slotted in at like a center attacking midfield for a match, which I thought was very interesting.
And
but
he still looked better
than
what Xerxes
he
looked
didn't look out of
times.
place. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. That's what I was going to say. It was a good performance from him, and absolutely. I mean, with the way that he's playing, he could be our player of the season if he continues. And again, I think I've talked about it a couple times. Whenever we actually have our 2 left backs that we do actually have on payroll, playing again, I think that he takes that right back spot over Diogo Dalot 10 times out of 10.
Dalot didn't have the best of games either today. Again, he looked a bit sloppy in defence. He struggled to make anything going forward and to help out anyone on the right hand side. He's like the polar opposite to Mazraoui, and Mazraoui has overtaken him in 10 games, and Dalot's been here for like 8 years or something. So it's that's worrying. Dalot is probably going to be on the market. I would, even though he's Portuguese, I think Amorim, unless he can get more out of him, I think Amorim will realise that there's a few quid on Dalot's head. He's a professional, international, elite footballer, but it's just not working out for him in the shirt of Manchester United, in my opinion. And you're right, again, Mazraoui's just taken over.
What's not lost on me with Diogo Dalot, though, is that he's played almost every single match for the past 12 months out of necessity, right? So, I mean, yes, he's got the minutes, but he also he's had too many minutes. He had the most minutes out of anybody on the field last season, and he's probably done the same here again this season so far.
But he hasn't peaked in any of that
constantly.
Time. But these 12 months, it's not like he's been in form, and maybe he's had a week or 2 there that he's been in form, but really he's been kind of out of form for the majority of those 12 months. So when you're out of form and you're not injured, you have to kind of play yourself. You can't just say, I've played for 12 months, I need to have a little rest. Mate, you're fit. In a league where it's filled with injuries at the moment, City are complaining, Newcastle complaining, United are also complaining. The fact that he's fit and able, and he's been playing and he hasn't hit that peak in those 12 months, he has to keep playing. You can't sit him out because he's not been in form, or you have to keep playing him. If there's no injuries, what's the problem?
Yeah, well, and again, you have to play him because there are injuries elsewhere, right? Right. I mean, yes, you would ideally see a bit of form from him at some point, which this whole start of the season has not been there. So maybe he does need a rest, and to realize that he's not going to be just a shoe-in for this starting lineup whenever we have everybody fit and healthy and ready to play, and especially whenever the new manager comes in and we're playing a new style of play. I don't know if he's going to slot into that the same way that someone like Mazraoui or Luke Shaw is going to. So,
look, if the rumours are true and we are going to switch to a back 3 and then have those wing backs, so that could be perfect for Dalot because he doesn't like running back anyway, right? So the fact that we'll have 3 people like behind him sort of as a baseline, I think that makes a lot more sense. But that would give them the freedom to go forward as well. And everyone's different, right? Some people deserve, like, they want love. Some people want to kick up the backside in terms of getting the best out of them. I think he's one of those people that you need to grind. And he's had the love from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's had the love from RedVsRed and Erik ten Hag because he's done well for most of those, but. I think he's performed best when he's under a bit of pressure, like right from Jose Mourinho or whatever. So, maybe this works out well for him with Amorim coming in, but I think he's in the shop window, and if we get 20 to 30 million for him, I think that's an okay price, and I think we could potentially either bring in one or two youngsters for that price and take a gamble, or move on. But yeah, I think his time is running out for Manchester United. That's just my opinion, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, to your point, not the best performer in recent times, and we've shipped out people that have performed better in recent times. So you never know at this point, and so yeah, I mean, he very well could be on the chopping block. We'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, let's talk about some of those goals then, because it was a bit sketchy throughout. I mean, Højlund was always running. It just wasn't working out. He was getting tackled on the ball. Everyone kind of looked dangerous at times in the first half. Like, again, the energy was there, but we didn't get the goal until the penalty, like in around the 60th minute or something. And look, we should be winning those games from those positions. The amount of times that we've been ahead. Even though Chelsea were dominant throughout and they had the majority of the possession and the chances throughout the whole game pretty much, this is a story of our season. We should have done better, but we should have also held our lead. But then we concede 2 or 3 minutes directly after our goal, and we knew that was going to happen. That's just the way that our seasons have been of late. We finally do ourselves a bit of justice, we get a goal, and then we lose focus or concentration, or we put our heads down or whatever it is, and then again we just.
I mean, we win the initial header off of that off of that corner that may or may not have been or should have been a corner, but whenever the ball comes out like that, if you're not closed down immediately, which nobody was really in the position to do, and that could just be a something to work on during the set piece practices and whatnot. No keeper in the Premier League stops that shot. There's not one. That shot was too good. It was very hard, very low. I mean, there's nothing more that Onana could have done. Maybe you argue, we should have gotten a body in between the goal and Caicedo, but I mean, overall, I looked at that and I was like, I almost can't even be mad about that particular goal. It's one of those things where
I'm
it's
not
just
blaming anyone in particular. I'm not saying Onana should retire from goalkeeper or anything like that. Look, I'm saying that it's a consistent thing. We score a goal, and within 5 minutes, how many times have we conceded a goal this season? Numerous times against Porto. It's just it's a theme of the season. We can't keep a lead for rhyme or reason at the moment. And we need to figure out what that is pretty quick. Well, Amorim needs to figure out what it would be great if RUUD could figure it out. So it's like something that you could solve before Amorim turns up. But yeah, it's not Onana's fault. It's not anyone's fault in particular. It's just it keeps happening. Why does this keep happening? When we used to score in Fergie time back in the day, it kept on happening because we never gave up. We always tried to play to the final whistle. And when the teams were at their most tired, it was when we made the subs and we looked our most dangerous, because we never gave up, right? But now this is happening. We're again, focus, concentration, whatever it is, it's a theme of the season. And even last season it was happening. We can't keep a lead. Why is that? I don't know. It's not De Ligt's fault or Martinez's fault or Onana's fault or any. I don't know what it is. It's just it's a curse that needs to be broken in Amorim's era,
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. Well, let's kind of move on to. Well, I want to talk about Rashford again. He got subbed off, and it wasn't fantastic. But mate, he just looks dangerous whenever he gets on the ball, though. Um, I don't know how it's not like he's throwing down. His body language looked good today. Looked energetic today. Not that many shots on target. Not that many chances created though. You can see why he kind of got brought off, but there was an energy in the stadium, and you could see that he was using that energy correctly. He had a good mindset for today, and I think he was just unlucky with the opportunities that he got. He had one sort of shot that outside the box that bounced and didn't really bother the goalkeeper. But again, a promising performance, just not one of his best.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those. He's one of those players that he is Manchester through and through. He needs a little bit of a kick in the rear at times,
I
and
don't know
I
if he
think
is Manchester through and through. I think he's going. Honestly, I think
Uh,
there's too
well,
many
I
people.
mean, my point is that this is what he's been brought up in. This is all that he knows, right? And so it's frustrating to see somebody that we know can perform as well as he can to continue to not do so. I think that he did look a bit more lively and energetic, to your point. But at the end of the day, if you like, if you're not looking dangerous and creating opportunities for yourself and the team. There's just a problem, and that problem needs to be fixed, and that fix is going to be either, benching, like get him mad, get him angry, get him to the point where he just feels an absolute fire underneath him that he needs to go out and perform. And if that doesn't work, then he's just got to go because there's been no production from him. There was very little production from him last year. We're only getting production from him against like League One and League Two sides in EFL Cup or something to that effect. And so we can't afford to have somebody on those types of wages that cannot perform any better than an Amad Diallo or I hate to say it, than an Antony. If we're getting the same level of production, then we shouldn't be paying those wages. That money is going to be better used elsewhere. We need to bring somebody in that can come in and make that impact. And right now, Rashford's just not doing it.
I there's I think he's got 6 months or to the end of the season. I think we're not going to sell him in January because no one kind of leaves in January. But yeah, I think he's going to try things out with Amorim. If things don't go well, like towards the end of this season, I think we'll try and get as much as we can for him on the sly. And he is an asset to the club, right? Whether he stays or goes, he is an asset to the club. And if he gets like 15 to 20 goals at the end of the season, like on the run-in, that could almost double his price. So I think, and because he's come through the system, that's all money for Manchester United. But maybe Amorim unlocks his true potential, but if he has a good end to the season this season with Amorim, and he doesn't have a good following season with Amorim, it's just we're going to lose this price tag and we're never going to be able to sell him again. I think this is going to be one of the last opportunities to sell Rashford if that's what the board decide to do. So we'll see. But yeah, okay. We're talking on with what the board had decided to do. We also got 1-1 draw against Chelsea today. I kind of want to spend a little bit of time talking about RUUD Van such a promiscuous kind of situation he was in. On that Monday, obviously Ten Hag getting sacked. On that same Monday, he's saying, yeah, he'll take over, not knowing how long for. He's obviously talking behind the scenes of what's going on with Amorim. I'm sure he's kept up to date every minute, sort of thing. Look, he's had a good result in the cup. He's undefeated after 2 games, and we've scored 6 goals in those 2 games, but we have conceded 3. So it's again, he's not going to fix everything overnight, but it's a positive performance. And Chelsea were in, top of the league form. They've been really putting in some performances. Cole Palmer is absolutely living things up, and he looked dangerous again today. But from RUUD's point of view, how's things going for RUUD at the moment? How do you see the last 2 kind of games happening? Obviously, we've got PAOK coming up as well. Another 2 home games that he's got before Amorim turns up, which is kind of favourable for him. So, yeah, how's it going? How do you see the next two games? How's RUUD kind of handling things in general? Is his team selections on point for you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of negative things to say about RUUD Van Nistelrooy at this point. We got a good result midweek, and I think all things considered against this Chelsea team, again, this is the result that I kind of expected was to get a point out of this, and I think a point is a fair result based on the performance that we saw. It looked like we had some semblance of a defensive unit, which I feel like has been one of the things that we've struggled with, is like looking like we're not going to give up chances just because we're going forward. The start of both of the first and the second half, we looked like we were pressing very high and really up for the challenge today. I was hoping that we were going to see that for a little bit more of the match, but I think that with the way that we played today and how much we had to run, like we were just kind of gassed by the end of it. So that could have, those last 5-10 minutes could have been very bad for us. But I think once it kind of got down to those last couple minutes, everybody kind of picked it up and made sure that we at least weren't going to give up a late winner for Chelsea. And I'm overall satisfied with the result and the tactics. Again, like it looked like we had a more cohesive unit today than we've had in quite some time.
I don't know about that. I agree with everything that you said up until cohesive unit. I think we were far from cohesive. I mean, again, Chelsea were dominating the game. Like, they dominated possession. All of the action was in our box and our half. And again, when we did get to go forward, we looked good going forward, but I don't think we looked anything cohesive. If we were cohesive, they wouldn't have scored that goal from a corner. They probably wouldn't have scored that corner, and we probably would have taken one or two more of our chances, if I'm honest. But in terms of RUUD Van Nistelrooy, there was a couple of things that happened during the match that I wasn't happy with. One was when he took off Højlund and then brought on Xerxes. There's nothing wrong with that kind of substitution overall. I mean, both strikers need minutes and everything else. But literally 2 minutes after Xerxes came on, Bruno does this flick in around the halfway line and sets Xerxes free one-on-one. But Xerxes' pace was not there, and therefore we lost the opportunity, he lost control of the ball, we lost the chance. Højlund, that's Højlund's bread and butter. He hasn't received that pass all season, probably for like 12 months. And the minute that he comes off, Xerxes kind of gets it. And I know that it was from a Bruno kind of flicking it, but that frustrates me. And that, unfortunately, that's a coach error. That's if he made that substitution, and it's not the substitution, it's when he made it. And he's kind of failed to read the game to a point where the substitution, obviously, if hindsight 2020, if RUUD knew that kind of pass was coming, he would have left Højlund on. But that was unfortunate, and I think that. But then putting Lindelof in midfield as well. I mean, you look at. I'm just going to substitutions. We had. What we got? Fletcher and Fitzgerald were the only ones in there. And I know it's 10 minutes. But we haven't played our youth all season, and this is where they could have been useful. We could have played some of our youngsters like Harry Amas, like Wheatley, like Fletcher, like whoever is the best. If we're short in positions, let's stop playing people out of position, and let's start giving the youngsters some minutes. Now, you're not going to give like a brand new youngster, his minutes of debut against a big club, right? I understand that, but that's exactly what happened for Collier against Liverpool, right? We haven't seen him since. That's exactly. And I know that they need minutes before these big games, but this is part of the problem. They haven't had their minutes, and we're short of people. You don't want to play Lindelof in midfield against Chelsea. Chelsea has spent like 300 million on their midfield, and we're plugging in the gaps with Lindelof. It doesn't make sense. Now, if Fitzgerald or Fletcher have had 10 minutes in Europe in the Cup or 5 minutes against in the league, and we get to see some of these players, they might be ready for the opportunity. The bench isn't good enough for these youngsters. They need opportunities, and RUUD hasn't given any of them the opportunities, and that's what I'm disappointed. Are you saying that after being 5 goals up against Leicester that we can't bring on some youngsters and see what Harry Amass is about? It doesn't. Why are we not playing the youngsters, Sporadiclese? Why?
Sure. I mean, against Leicester, I think it makes sense to have done that, but we didn't, and so that's unfortunate, especially given that right now we don't really have the depth, and we're out on injuries for so many positions, right? So we didn't have anybody that could really come in and make the difference today in midfield. So that's why Lindelof was brought in, and I think really that substitution in particular was there so that we don't concede, right? We don't concede the next goal. Like, just finish out the match, take the point, and run with it. Yes, I do believe that the youngsters do need some minutes. This was not the game for that. Not against Chelsea. I would not do that. Even if they got a few minutes against the Leicester team, in the midweek, I still wouldn't put in youngsters for a match like this. Even at the end, it's just not. This is not the right game for it.
So
now,
why
Liverpool
and not Chelsea? Why away at Liverpool? Was it away at Liverpool? I can't remember.
I mean, I wouldn't. I would not have put Collier in at left back of all places. I think he came in and did a job whenever he did.
He came off Casemiro in the midfield, right? Because Casemiro gave away everything.
He started the game at left back. I know he did.
No, Casemiro was awful that game against Liverpool, 3-0, and he was at fault for all of the goals.
Okay,
and so he got subbed off for half time, and Collier came on for half time, and that was his debut. 45 minutes against Liverpool, 3-0 down. So, but again, we should have seen that as the problem right there and then, that the youngsters need some minutes. But they're not getting any minutes. So why are they on the bench if they're not going to be getting any minutes? Lindelof in midfield against a £300 million Chelsea makes absolutely no sense. We should have made minutes for the youngsters earlier on. Again, why is RUUD not making Harry Amass a substitution against Leicester whilst we're 5-1 up? I don't know. I know Collier's injured at the moment, so he's not an option. But we do have depth when it comes to youngsters. But 5-10 minutes here and there needs to start happening sooner rather than later. Because we're going to probably need them in January.
But RUUD's just here to make sure that the ship doesn't sink any further than it already has, right? I mean, if you want to talk about why aren't the youngsters getting minutes, I mean that's an Eric Ten Hag thing, right? He didn't give any of those youngsters minutes for the entire season, really. And sure, RUUD could have come in and said, "Hey, look, we need to make these rotations because also our squad just looks tired because you're playing all the same players week in, week out." There's not been a ton of rotation. The midfield in particular is the only place that we've really seen the rotation. Ethan Wheatley needs to get more minutes. Amad Diallo should be getting more minutes again. I don't know why he's not getting more starts. That just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, again, we discussed this last week, man. I mean, yeah, he's getting some minutes. He got some minutes today. Didn't look frightening today, though, did he? Like, when he's not taking his chance. When he is getting put on the pitch, he's not doing anything with those minutes. And he's got great control. He looks great on the ball, but it's not working out for him on the right hand side at the moment. Like, he's not creating anything. He's not.
Well, neither side has been really working out for Rashford either. So, we can sit here and have this conversation about all of these different players.
We had last week Garnacho and Rashford both looking more dangerous. We said last week that they're the best performing wingers at the moment. When you have an option of 2 wingers out of the 3, you're going to be playing Garnacho and Rashford, is what we discussed, and I agree with that. But again, Diallo's just not taking his chances. He's getting opportunities, but he's not taking it. We know there's a great player in there, like every person that steps on the pitch for Man United, or most of them, I should say.
Go ahead.
No. I'm disappointed in the output that Diallo is offering at the moment, with the opportunities that he's getting. Garnacho and Rashford have a much higher output, and that's saying something, because their output isn't fantastic at the moment, but I think that they're doing better than what Diallo is,
Yeah, well, and I think that Diallo had a promising start to the season, and then he just stopped getting minutes, right? Then we started using Rashford and Garnacho almost exclusively, and that's been the story of the rest of the season. So you go from, okay, he looks dangerous. Yes, he's not scored any. I think he's scored 1 goal so far this season. If if he's looking dangerous, you need to keep playing him. And we stopped playing him, and now he's getting frustrated because he's not getting the minutes, and so he's coming out and he's not in the right frame of mind. It's he's not there. I think that he's got to get more minutes on the front end rather than the back end in order to really shine. And I think that Garnacho has been used as to great effect as an impact sub. Now we don't have that, and we're not getting the same level of production. Yes, he does still score goals, but whenever he comes on as a sub, he's extremely effective. And so you know, I think again the whole issue this season has just been rotation, period, or the lack thereof. There's not been a lot of rotation except for in the two central defensive midfield spots. Everywhere else has been almost exclusively the players that have been playing in those positions as of today. Sans like maybe Xerxes playing for Hoyland, and even then, at the start of the season, he wasn't even getting the minutes. It was Bruno Fernandes that was up top. So I think that we've really got to your point, start getting some of these youngsters involved, because if that's the depth that we have in the squad, that's the depth that we need to use, and it's just not happening. And this match against PAOK in the Europa League, I'm concerned that we're not going to do it again. Because we've had 3 ties out of 3 matches in the Europa League. We need a win. RUUD's going to look at it and say, I played my best team, my best starting 11 this last match on Sunday. I'm going to have to do it again on Wednesday, Thursday, whatever it is. And so it's just frustrating because each and every week has been, we need a result, we need a result, we need a result, and as a result, we have not been getting them because we're not rotating. It all comes down to rotation in my mind.
I don't know. I'm looking at our forwards, and I don't think any of them are deserving to start, really. I mean, the amount of appearances and shots that they've had. Garnacho, in the Premier League, Garnacho's had 29 shots and 2 goals, and he's the only person with 2 goals. Like, Diallo's got 1 goal, Ratcha's got 1 goal, Hoyland's got 1 goal, Xerxes got 1 goal. And
we've scored 9 goals in 10 matches.
Right.
It's atrocious.
So no matter what's going on here, none of them are taking their chances. None of them are to kind of deserve. No one's kind of pushing for that starting place. And so our basic go-to are our top 2, which is Rashford and Garnacho, especially out on the wings. I mean, Xerxes hasn't performed well enough to say he deserves a start over Hoyland. But when Hoyland is playing, he's not making the most of his opportunity either. So we could say this about... So I don't know what the answer is, other than Amorim comes in and the 3 at the back system allows us to be more creative in the final third for longer. Because at the moment we're counter-attacking and everything's a rush. Let's play a bit like City and Liverpool and Chelsea, and let's play in the final third and control the match in the final third a little bit. And that's kind of what we have to do. Like, we can't keep counter-attacking all the time. Hoyland needs touches on the ball. Rashford would look dangerous on the ball if we had more time and space in the final third a little bit. I don't know, I'm daydreaming a bit here, but I'm looking at the stats here of our forwards, and it's not looking good. And no one is deserving to start, other than Wheatley, because he hasn't had a start yet. So you'd say, in principle, you'd kind of give him a shout at some. I don't know, but something needs to switch. We're not scoring any goals, but one person that is kind of stepping things back up, I suppose, is El Capitan himself in Bruno Fernandes. Took that penalty well, and got us in the lead, but he's been making some great touches. Again, we talked about the Xerxes back heel, which was a fantastic pass, and he's looking somewhat close to his creative best. The vision that he's got seems to have switched back on again, but people aren't really taking the most of those chances. But he's looking dangerous and threatening, and like he's got the eye of the tiger back.
Yeah. I mean, the last couple weeks, I think he's really started to come back into his own, right? And doing those things that make Bruno, and creating opportunities that nobody else on the team is going to be able to create, and making the passes that nobody else is going to see. I mean, his vision and his ability to execute his vision are second to none in terms of who we have in our squad. And those little moments like that, those little flicks, those are what we've been missing. It's just that way that we're just taking the rest of the opposition out of that play to create the opportunity, and that's what Bruno does best. Is how do I just cut them wide open and put my players into the best possible situations to score goals. And I think we saw that for his assist on Hoyland's goal the other week. And it's good to see him taking a penalty. I know in this exact fixture last season, he had that penalty saved, and so it's good to see him come back and step in and get that opportunity and make the most of it. And yeah, I mean, I'm really hoping that this is kind of his momentum shift for the season, and that he's going to start picking it up and maintaining that level and holding the rest of the team to that high standard that he can set for everybody.
Yeah, I think it's nice to see him start a little bit deeper as well. There are times where he was literally the last man at times, and he's got the picture of everyone in front of him. And I think it's good. Yes, he can lay off that final back heel to set people off on the line, and he can set up Hoyland with a sharp little Cruyff turn pass, and he's got that magic in the box, but he can help us get to the final third as well. So when I mentioned earlier on where we need to kind of stay in the final third and control the matches, Bruno can get us to that point. Like, he can be in around the halfway line or even deep inside our own area, and he can set off a pass that can... Now, if we can just keep the ball there for like 10 seconds or so, like, we can allow people to come forward, and then we can kind of control the ball. And he'll just sit in between the halfway circle and the penalty box circle, and he'll just maestro and conduct all these, which I think is going to be fantastic. But yeah, he was deeper at times today, and I like that. He allowed others to kind of go forward and take space. We know the space what Xerxes likes to take, so he was kind of self-aware to that extent to not be where he normally goes, and it just worked. We probably should have had more chances created. I think it was Lindelof that assisted Garnacho for that pass, but I think Bruno put in the corner or the free kick to make that happen, and it was real close to getting to the target man in Xerxes anyway. So yeah, he's always dangerous. I think we've been missing like set piece takers for a long time, and yes, we've had Bruno, but to actually get an end result out of them, we're still kind of missing that. His shots on goal from free kicks could always be better. I think that's something that he needs to improve, or United as a club need to improve in general, is to either find a set piece taker to score goals from, or to turn Bruno to be more consistent within that area. Especially if he gets older, that's more of an opportunity for him to use his expertise and his wisdom and his nous a little bit. But yeah, he stepped up in the last week or two especially. Got a couple of goals against Leicester, and he's done well again today. And I think he's going to be disappointed we didn't get the win, because I think we all kind of are, because of the way that the game went. We did go ahead, but I think he can take a lot of pride out of this performance. I think he's led by example, and he's done well.
Yeah. I mean, it was a solid performance by him for sure. I hesitate to say that anybody has had like a great performance today, though, and that kind of speaks to the rest of the season that we've been having too, right? If we had players that were consistently performing well, not just good but well, then we'd have so many of these ties that are turning into wins, and so that's kind of what we need, and it's going to have to start with a captain for sure.
Well, talking of magnificent performances, I know that you kind of wanted to talk about the one and only Casemiro. Now, he didn't really have a bad game, in my opinion. He had a kind of great game against Leicester. What do you kind of want to mention about Casemiro this week?
Yeah, I mean, this week I would say he really stepped up in terms of both sides of the ball compared to a lot of the performance that he's been having. He's looked very threatening in terms of playing the balls over the top and finding people, like picking out that pass to get us into the final third, which is what we saw today. Leading up to that penalty was him playing in Hoyland and creating that opportunity. And he also, I thought that he had a pretty decent game today on defense. Looked like he was making his tackles. He was just playing smart. I think that he's kind of starting to find, where he's kind of missing that step. Like he's obviously lost a step from where he used to be in terms of his speed, his quickness, things of that nature. But his tackling, it's been an adjustment period for him. But I think today it looked much better. And he was able to track back. I know he got a yellow card for it, but he had to track back whenever Garnacho lost the ball. But he made that lung busting run to make sure that we weren't going to give up an opportunity late in the game that was going to potentially cost us a goal. So for him, I think today was a lead by example performance, as well as the one that Bruno Fernandes put in. So if this is the form that he can find and stay in long term, then I think we've got definitely a good rotational asset in our midfield area.
It's kind of hard to talk about one without talking about the other today, in my opinion. I think Ugarte and Casemiro, this is probably the first time that they've had a start together. Maybe they started against Leicester, I'm not sure. But he's really, really good. As a combination, I think this is a combination that can work against the majority of teams in the Premier League. Now, there are some that you're going to need a bit more pace, like the Kobe Mainu available and everything else. But I think having Ugarte and Casemiro sheds fear in the opposition. Like that's as close to a Roy Keane combination as you can get in the Premier League, and that's both got bookings purposefully today, one at a time, to save the team, right? And they're both putting in tackles. And yeah, Casemiro probably looked the better today, but I think that's because of all the hard work that Ugarte was doing. He was doing all the dirty work, and that as a midfield duo, for the first time in a while, since Eriksen had just started popping up in man of the match performances, that our midfield has kind of looked well, as a unit. I think those two just work. Sometimes they were taking up each other's space, and that will come over time where they kind of drift out. But they both looked good individually and as a duo today. They look good against Leicester as well. Obviously, Eriksen is injured at the moment. Mainu is injured. Collier is injured. We are kind of short on midfielders at the moment. But this is where we talked about the youngsters as well. But these two looking good. Mason Mount is still. How is Mason Mount out for 4 weeks with a head injury? I don't understand what's going on there. So yeah, it is good that Casemiro has turned up, because it wasn't the best of starts for him this season. And the fact that he started putting on a partnership with Ugarte now. I mean, having one destroyer in the team is something. Having two destroyers in the team, again, sparks fear in the opposition a little bit. And despite Chelsea having £300 million in their midfield, they did well. It wasn't electric, but they performed above average, and they were the tackles from Casemiro were on point today. Another day, he probably could have got 3 red cards, but they were on point today, and that's the opinion. And same with Ugarte. He probably could have got sent off because he was already booked, but he was living on. But I love that. I love having these two combative midfielders, not necessarily pulling the strings, because that's what Bruno was doing, but they're just putting in the effort and the graft, and masters of the dark arts sort of thing. And having 2 Professor Snapes in front of the defence that's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah. I was kind of surprised with Ugarte too. It looked like he made some challenges that I don't know, if I was on a yellow card I probably wouldn't have made. But to each their own, and it worked out for him at the end. I believe he yeah, he was the one that ended up getting substituted later in the match just because he was continuing to get fouls called on him after the yellow card. So,
Yeah.
it's good to see that that he's got that mindset of like, no, you're not going to get past me. I am going to take the ball from you. Just hoping, and I was looking at it saying, please, for the love of God, do not get a red card. Don't get the second yellow. Don't do it.
I don't think that's what goes through his mind when he goes into a tackle. Like, I don't think he necessarily goes for the ball. I think in his mind, every sliding tackle's a 50-50. I think he's just rolling the dice if he comes away with a foul or not. But I love that wild kind of stretch. I think it's pretty good.
Speaking of 50-50 tackles, what did you think of Lissandro Martinez there at the very end of the match?
I think it was a whole bunch of nothing, honestly. Yeah, he shouldn't have done it, but it was barely a touch. Yeah, it was on the knee. He wasn't out of control. It wasn't a lunge. It wasn't a jump. It wasn't a dive. It was just a little lash out with a scrape of the stuff. It's not a red. It's a booking. Fair enough. Yellow card. That's... Come on, this isn't a school playground here, is it? Let's be honest. It wasn't ruthless or reckless or dangerous. It's a foul. It's a yellow card. Let's move on.
Yeah, and it did look like he was trying specifically not to follow through on that challenge. Did just kind of get that clip on the knee. So I'm really glad with the decision there from the VAR to not even take that up to the booth.
Yeah,
or to the monitor, I suppose.
Yeah, I don't think VAR. I don't know why VAR is getting involved in that's the sort of thing where look, it's like the head teacher's getting involved. It's like the teacher hasn't done a good enough job, and therefore the head teacher's evaluating everything that's happened, and the head teacher's generally more stricter than the teacher anyway. It's like the head teacher has got a principle to kind of set out. VAR have a principle to set out to try and make things right according to the letter of the law or whatever, as it's written. Like, there's no kind of human compassion or anything involved. It's VAR is, defined upon very robotic service. Again, it feels like the headmaster sort of thing. And yeah, there was no need for VAR to get in that. It was a yellow card. Why are you looking for a red card into something that is... The ref saw it as a yellow card. Why are you looking to turn over to... Do you know what I mean? If it was like a hugely, embarrassingly leg breaker of a tackle, and then, and the ref just gives a yellow, you think, hang on a second, the studs are... Let's have a look at that, because that looked pretty bad. Martinez's challenge didn't look bad. It wasn't bad. Why are you trying to make it look bad by slowing it down and have a consideration over it? It made no sense to me. It's almost it's not helping the game. The fans aren't enjoying the VAR review. Everyone's stop at home wondering what's going on. What are you looking at? Yeah, VAR over the whole is good, but it's decision. Why you get involved in decisions like that to try and get someone sent off? I think it puts a bad taste in my mouth. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that. I think there are moments that warrant, a second look. But, I mean, we've also seen, red cards given that shouldn't have been based on VAR reviews as well.
And then get rescinded.
Bruno Fernandes. Yeah, exactly. And so, to your point, it's like there's almost a different... a different standard for what VAR is looking for compared to what the center official is looking for, and I think that does at times result in very very poor decisions on the part of the officiating crews.
I mean, just for context, every single challenge that Casemiro does should be reviewed, right? Because you never know if he's going to get the ball or the ankle or the kneecap or the neck, whatever he's going to do. You review Casemiro's challenge. But Martinez, it wasn't even reviewable. Like, you could all see, it wasn't a lunge or dangerous or reckless. It was just a cheeky little lash, like someone pulling the shirt, yellow card, move on. We've probably already talked about it way too much. But let's know what you guys think down in the comments below. Make sure you hit that follow button and subscribe, and yeah, make sure you join the community. Sporadiclese, we're going to move on to some for or against here. So do you just want to kind of explain for or against before we kind of move on?
Yeah, absolutely. So our for or against segment is where myself and the Saffron Man will come up with a couple of questions that are meant to be thought provoking and kind of discuss both sides of the question and kind of see, what each individual take could be. Why could you possibly be for this particular statement or against this particular statement? And currently, what we're doing is we will assign a winner to each of the questions. But whenever we are doing this live, we will leave that up to the audience to do voting. So we just need a little bit more engagement so that we can start doing our lives and have people come in and do that. But it gives you guys again both sides of the coin so that you can make your own decisions and you can also engage with us and let us know what you think on these particular things. So is that about sum it up for you, Saf?
Yeah, and kind of whatever happens, it does not get personal. All right, here's for or against. Hello everyone, I'm the Saffron Man here with Sporadiclese for RedVsRed, and this is the for or against segment of our podcast, which you can check out weekly on Rumble or YouTube each and every Saturday or Sunday, depending whenever Manchester United are playing. And we've got content out during the week as well, so make sure you go and check that out. But here at For or Against, we're going to give you two sides of the same story, so you guys can make the decision and have your own thoughts and have your own say. Sporadiclese, who's for or against this week, man?
I think I was for last week.
God, we should have done this before. We should have found out beforehand. I didn't make the note.
We do this every week almost.
No, you usually tell me you're on the ball on this. It's like one of the few things that you provide me each week is a who's for or against.
I'm gonna take the for on this week.
Okay, awesome. So Sporadiclese is going to be for. I'm going to be against. The first question I have set up for us this week is let me just grab it up. Where it is there? Boom. Mazraoui, buy of the season contender. Sporadiclese, go.
Oh man, I'm really glad that I picked four here because this should be a shoe-in. He is definitely our most consistent performer on both sides of the ball in terms of what he brings and in the position that he needs to bring that type of energy. I don't think that he's really put a foot wrong on defense. I think that the only times that he's been looked out of place is because other people are not in the right positions and he's having to mark multiple people. But he looks good on both offense and defense. The hustle is there. And you talk about the price tag to bring him in. I think he was the least expensive out of almost any transfer that we've had in the last 2-3 years. And with what he's been able to do thus far, I mean, through the first 10 matches out of the 38, easily, I would say, the best player on the pitch for Manchester United. Um, if nothing else, then you look at performance per dollar. He's definitely the performer per dollar. Number one, absolutely for this season, and I don't think there's really any argument that you can really make against that. But I'll leave it up to you to do exactly that.
Can't believe you just said performance per dollar as a stat. I mean, it's like pound for pound. What's going on here? Performance per dollar isn't a stat. Paid no attention to him. Now, whilst I agree Mazraoui's had a great start to the season, there are other contenders in the league, and it's been hard fought. Like John Duran for Aston Villa is firing on all cylinders at the moment. Dominic Solanke for Tottenham is firing on all cylinders at the moment. Now, there are people that are performing well and above expectations at the moment. But we're a quarter of the way through the season. Mazraoui is in the discussion, no doubt about it. Can he continue that throughout the rest of the season? That's the question. Look, we've just changed manager. Amarim's about to come in. Our system is about to change. So the first quarter of the season, which has gone and happened, is going to be lightly irrelevant because of our system change. So will Mazraoui play as well in that new system as well he's been playing this? That's the question. So he's had a fantastic start to the season, I agree. But there are many others that are performing much higher up in the league that are also performing at a higher standard. Now, price tag has to come to it for sure. 30 million is dirt cheap. John Duran, though, I think it was like 10, 20 million. Now, strikers are different, but he's been adding value. He scores in every game that he pretty much plays in Europe, in the Cups. They're doing well, right? So, yeah, we're about to change our system. Will he fit into that system? Will he adapt? I hope so, because he has had a good start, but it is just a good start. We've got 3 quarters of the league to go. I think there's still going to be questions coming into the season.
Yeah, and I mean, again, the question is he a contender for buy of the season, right? It's not, is he the buy of the season? And I think, yes, he is a contender for buy of the season. And John Duran, yes, he's performed very well as a substitute. 4 goals in 10 appearances off the bench. So it's not every goal, it's not even half, but that's still a pretty good haul. It's more than double any of our our players here at Manchester United. So yes, I mean, obviously a very good option and a very good buy for them from, I believe, the Chicago Fire. So a good bit of business there. But again, Mazraoui
Chicago Fire.
For what it's...
Oh yeah, John Duran. My bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
I was like,
so yeah, I mean. Yeah, no, not Mazraoui. If we bought Mazraoui from the Chicago Fire, I would be questioning why every team in Europe let him go to the MLS without picking him up first. So, fortunately, it was us that did it, and he has performed extremely well. I look at, especially within our team, and he's got to be top performer thus far for me. I don't think there's anybody else that has been as consistent. He's been playing all of these minutes. He's usurped Dalot, in my opinion, whenever we do have all of the available people and players. You talk about whether or not he's going to be able to adjust to the new system and tactics of Ruben Amorim. We've already seen that he can play in a center attacking mid, as well as on both sides of the defense, with very little to no issues with the angles and the changes that each of those sides bring. So absolutely, he's a contender for buy of the season.
Yeah, okay, I'll allow you on that one, and we'll make that as a 4 win for Sporadiclese. So let us know what you think down below. Is Mazraoui a contender for buy of the season? Let us know your thoughts. If not Mazraoui, then who else would you say? Okay, so question number 2, Sporadiclese. RUUD will stay with Amorim appointed. And you are for this one, so go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why he should not at least stay on. I think that he does and will. I think that it's been an issue thus far, the finishing, right? And he's been here for a little bit now, and you would like to see a little bit more in terms of the finishing from the rest of the team, but I think that it's still going to take time, right? We saw a very good performance against Leicester in terms of finishing abilities, and so I think we kind of tend to see this spike in performances whenever one manager gets fired and somebody else is getting appointed, or we're waiting to bring in a new manager. It happened whenever whenever Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was the interim manager and then ultimately appointed. I think that we saw it again against Leicester, and again, I think today's performance, for what it was worth, was a good result for us. While I think the play could have been a bit better, the result is really what matters at the end of it, and not losing to a Chelsea team that is, in contention for a Champions League spot. Could have went third today with a win against us. We were able to stave them off, and to me, I think that, in part, that is up to RUUD, because, he's going to have to, in the interim, obviously, make sure that we are getting those results. And to your point, he's undefeated thus far, and that's a great win. That's a win, quote unquote, for us, I would say. And so, yeah, I mean, I think he's done plenty to deserve it, and I look forward to seeing what he will do once Amorim is appointed.
Yeah, I want RUUD to be staying, but I don't think he's going to, purely because Amorim is bringing his own staff with him. It's like 3 or 4 coaches, a sports scientist, and analyst are all going to be joining with him. And I think RUUD is... If he stayed a coach and he wasn't interim manager, I think he would have been fine. But the fact that he's coming as interim manager, I think the fact that He's got that respect from the fans, from the players and everything. I don't think Amorim is going to like that. He's a young coach. He's going to want to do things his own way. I think having someone with the stature of RUUD could be helpful to everyone involved except for Amorim. I think it could take, unless they bond well and they get along. But I think, if Amorim's coming into a club and he's bringing his staff with him, you would question every time RUUD van Nistelrooy speaks, because he doesn't know the system that you're trying to implement. He doesn't know the tactics or the mentality you're trying to implement. So you're just going to be grinding against, unless Amorim is 100% crystal clear with RUUD van Nistelrooy about what he wants from him and what he's trying to do. If there are clashes or disagreements within those discussions, I think that RUUD's just going to say thanks but no thanks, and I think Amorim will say that one. I think RUUD will stay no matter what. I just don't think Amorim will want him in the long term. I think he's going to want his team, his chance, and I think RUUD might just be the thorn in that side. I don't know. I mean, Amorim is his own man. We'll see. But that's just, if RUUD wasn't to stay, that would be the reason, in my opinion, that wouldn't happen.
I mean, in my opinion, if you have a manager and an assistant manager, or coaching staff in general, and they're not butting heads, in my opinion, that there's something wrong there. You need to have those different sides of or those different approaches, because that brings something new. It tells you that you're bringing something that the other person doesn't have. And I think what RUUD really does bring, more than anybody else that has been kind of associated with Manchester United in terms of coaching staff, aside from maybe Ole, obviously, is that he has experience at Manchester United. Having played for Manchester United, he knows what the standards are. He's the type of person that's going to be able to best convey the importance of a lot of the qualities that we have, and the standards. Like today, whenever De Ligt makes a back pass in the first 10 minutes all the way back to the goalkeeper, after we've been sending the ball forward and having very good results from it, he's on the field and he's getting animated on the touchline and saying, "What are you doing? Move the ball forward. This is Manchester United, and this is what
you can't do that. You can't. That's you. You just convinced me. He's not going to stay." Like, you can't do that on the pitch. Like, you can't undermine the manager publicly like that. You can have, disagreement, but you can't be raising your voice and arguing on the touchline with the man in charge, the manager. So if Amorim's going to come in charge, and he's not going to want those conflicts or discover, he's going to want a crystal clear vision of what he and his team want. And if RUUD van Nistelrooy is not going to enjoy it, who's going to win? This is why he's going to leave. He's a legend of the club. Amorim will not want a legend of the club undermining him or questioning or anything like. He's going to want the power. He's going to want the position. RUUD van Nistelrooy is a thorn in that side. It's not going to work out for him. You literally just convinced me. He won't stand for stuff like that. He's going to. Again, none of us really know what Amorim is going to be like as a person. The fact that he's bringing in 3 to 5 other people with him. Yes, we all kind of want RUUD to stay, but we've got a new manager now, and it's his team and it's his call. And he's not going to want someone with the stature of RUUD van Nistelrooy and the power of RUUD van Nistelrooy as a legend to be making any kind of decisions or having any conflicts. It's going to be Amorim all the way. That's just.
It's not. I mean, I don't think that it's entirely up to Amorim either. I mean, we have a new upper management, right? They were also part of bringing in RUUD into the coaching staff. So I mean, yes, other coaches are going to want to bring in some of their coaches that they have on their staff with them. But again, ultimately that's going to come down to our director of football, and it's not going to be something that, we're not giving unilateral power to our head coaches anymore to do everything that they want within the team at this point. So there are going to be confines that he does have to work in, and so all of that considered, I think that RUUD is going to stay.
Look, mark my words, on the 12th of November, RUUD van Nistelrooy is going to be announced that he's going to be leaving Manchester United. And if if not the 12th, then probably by January when everything's sorted out. We'll see. But I'm fully and wholly convinced that Amorim is going to want to bring in his own. We know he's going to bring in his own team. And if he didn't have that control, like you mentioned, he would never have had the ability to bring his own team in with him in the first place. We've literally just paid an extra 1 to 2 million on top of the fee to get Amorim to bring in his staff with him as well at the same time. I just don't see a space for RUUD under Amorim, but we will see. I'll leave that white for there. I don't want to... But mark my words, I think RUUD's going to be gone before Christmas. The next one we'll have for you, Sporadiclese, that you're for is Quiet January or Start of a Revolution. Obviously, our finances are known to be quite low, even though we spent quite a lot. We don't usually spend a lot in January, but with a new manager coming in, with a new system coming in, do you think we're going to make some sales in January, or do you think it's just going to be try and hold off until the end of the season? How do you see January coming?
I mean, this is probably the most difficult one to say because, I think that there's been any number of times that we as a fan base have heard, oh, well, there's no money for this, there's no money for that. And then we go out and we drop 80 million on, the next best thing, like bringing Paul Pogba back or something silly. So I would like, personally, to see a quiet January because we do have all of these youngsters that should be coming up through the youth ranks into the first team and starting to get those minutes. We have one of the most dominant academies in the UK, right? And so it doesn't make sense that we go out and we spend another 100 million in January. That's not really the time that you want to go in and make wholesale changes to your team. I mean, yes, obviously, I think that there will be some desire from Amorim to bring players in that are going to suit his style a little bit better because I think we are going to have a lot of situations where we have square pegs going into round holes, but that's not something that you address full sail in January. So I would expect a signing, maybe two. If we are going to get people out, it should be on loan for the the youth players that we're just not getting the minutes to that need to be getting those minutes. But we also have to be cognizant of the depth of the squad. And so, I think that the injuries that we sustain between now and January are also going to be fairly telling about what we're doing. We might also just look at loan options to bring players in just to fill some of the holes that we've had for basically this whole first half of the season almost.
Yeah, well, I definitely... Okay, so new manager coming in, new system. The manager's got a 2.5-year contract. He's going to want to make an impression as early as possible, and he's not going to want to wait until the end of the season, right? So with that in mind, with that mindset in mind, I'm just going to go through the positions of our squad and who I think are probably going to move on with the incoming manager Amorim, right? So in the goalkeeper, I think we're going to keep Tom Heaton. I think we're going to sell Altay Bayındır because he's got a value on him. He's Turkish number one goalkeeper. You could probably get 20-ish million for him since he's an international number one. You might get a bit more on a good day, might get a bit less on a bad day, but 20 million I think is a fair price. I don't think Amorim is going to like Onana. And I'm still kind of pissed off that we kind of let David De Gea go. Anyway, that's the whole thing. I think Onana's safe until the end of the season. But unless... He said at the start of the season that Onana is going to be playing risks. And I haven't seen anything of that. He just stands... So I want to see improvements from Onana with football at his feet, which is what we've been promised. But I think he's a saleable product and we could get our money back maybe. But anyway, Bayındır I think is going to go. Lindelof I think is going to go. Maguire I think is going to go. Tyrell Malacia should go. Luke Shaw should go. Johnny Evans will stay until the end of the season. Harry Emas, if you're not going to play him, sell him. But you'd probably get more money if you did play him in the first place anyway. So I would say keep him. Lady Euro, you keep him. Mazraoui, you keep. De Ligt, you keep. Toby Collier's injured at the moment, but he looks like a specimen. He looks like he could fill in a gap. But if he looks good to us and he's not getting the minutes, you could probably get a fair chunk of change, like 20 million plus a sell-on clause fee for him. He's a tall, powerful guy. We've just sold Scott McTominay for like 30 million. And yes, Toby Collier is of the same ilk, a bit more defensive-minded, but he's of the same stature, and you can get a fair amount of money for him if you kind of prize your words right, which you should. Mason Mount, we could probably sell him as well for 20-30 million. I don't think he'll be here within 12 months. Christian Eriksen's got 7 months left on his contract, and he's performing well at the moment, but I don't think he's going to sign a new contract. He could well go in January. Casemiro, Saudi coming for Casemiro, he's probably going to go, even though he's uptick his form. We're putting a bit more money on his price, but I definitely think there's a price on his head anyway, and could leave if Amorim doesn't like him in the system. Kobe Mainoo's going to stay, Manu Ugarte's going to stay, he's worked with Amorim before. I think he'll get the best out of him. Rasmus Højlund, possibly on a ticking clock. I think he's got a bit more time on his side because of the price tag and the potential, and that he's still young and very powerful. But I think it's questionable. His lack of goals is concerning, and Amorim will want to try and sort that out. If a decent price tag comes in for him in the meantime, it could sway his head. Marcus Rashford, same kind of deal. Diallo's probably got money on him. If a decent price comes in, we're probably going to say yes. Anthony, give me a fiver. Yes, sold. Garnacho is going to stay. Ethan Wheatley, if 20 million comes in for Ethan Wheatley, even though he's untested, we've got so many youngsters coming through like Chibu Obi Martin and others. 20 million or 10 million plus a sell-on fee or something like that. That's money in the bank for replacement. So you say Joshua Zirkzee is going to stay. So quiet or revolution, Amorim could sell half of the squad that I just mentioned, and he could generate a transfer kitty to make 1 or 2 changes, whether it be a left back or a goalkeeper or wherever he likes. He has to generate those funds first, and I think we have a squad that he can do that. So I think it could potentially be a start of a revolution, since we have so many underperformers. We can't have people that give up like Delot whilst on the pitch. We can't have people that are misfiring their opportunities like half of our wingers and every one of our I think he's not going to wait for 8 months until the end of the season. If he can make a few sales in January, which is tough, I think he's going to do it. And I think he's towards the end of January, maybe the last day of January, he finds a coup and he finds a player, maybe someone from Sporting that he likes, like the midfielder or a defender that costs 70 million or something. So we'll see. The potential is there, but I think it could potentially be a revolution starting in January. No one else buys in January.
You just mentioned selling half of our squad for 2 players, 3 players. We have no depth. We already don't have depth. If that would be a death sentence for not only this season, but next season, and probably the season after that. For 20 million, you're not even going to get 20 million for most of these guys. I think 20 million is a stretch for an Ethan Wheatley, for a Toby Collier, who else did you say?
I don't think Toby Collier's a stretch at 20 million. Maybe Ethan Wheatley, but then I did say 10. But I gave a reason for all. Like Eriksen's out of contract in 6 months. Harry Maguire's got a sale product. Lindelof's got 7 months left.
Eriksen and Casemiro, especially if it was for 20. It's not going to be for 20. You're talking about getting Shaw gone for 20. You're not going to get 20 for him. You're not going to pay $20 million for somebody that can't even play.
Kieran Trippier's 20 million all day long. And Luke Shaw, I get he's 30 years old, but he's 4 years younger than Kieran Trippier. He's still got value. Yes, he hasn't played for a while, but he walked into that England team because of his water.
And sure, he can walk into a team and then injure himself, and
right.
That's what he's
got
been
injured
doing
whilst
for
walking.
us.
But his ability is such a high level.
Exactly. Terrell Malacia. We're not going to get 20 for him. We didn't even pay 20 for him, and he's not even showed up for us.
Terrell Malacia you probably give away for 5 to 10. But my point is, half of the squad has some kind of price available to them and can be sold if needed. And yeah, they'll need to be replaced. But all of the players that I mentioned, by the way, none of them are sticking around with performances saying, "Oh, I'm worth keeping, boss." Do you know? Which is the point. And Amorim's looking at all this toxicity that's happened, and people literally are giving up mentality, and he needs to look to change that. So all of those players that I mentioned could be replaced, whether or not in the next 6 months or the next 12 months, but I don't think they're going to be here for long. And I think Amorim doesn't have long. He's got 2.5 years. He's going to have to start at some point, and the January window is a place to start. He's not going to have 200 million to spend in January, right? We understand that. So he's going to have to generate funds. And and we can generate funds from all those players that I just mentioned, because none of them are in form worthy of staying.
I think at most you could full offload 2 players and bring in 1, and other players might go out on loan. But you're not going to have a fire sale in January. It's just not going to happen. It's not something that we've ever done to that degree. And it's not going to start now.
But we've never signed a manager 9 months into a season after pre-season. That's kind of my point. Amrim is going to try and take this opportunity with both hands, right? I hear what you're saying. Hasn't been done before. It's never going to... But he's going to be under pressure in January. And you only get 2 opportunities a year to buy players. And he's missed out on this summer. And so he's going to want to at least get 1 or 2 people in. He'll be a part of the
conversation, but it's not going to be up to him in its entirety either. So, he can say, he can make suggestions and say these are the types of players that I want. He may get one, he may not. I think we will have at least 1 signing in January, but it's not going to be like. It's not going to be to that degree of we're getting rid of half of our team.
But that's what I think he's going to sell more people than what he's going to buy in January.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think at least all those people that I mentioned are probably on the list to be talked about to be potentially sold. And again, it's whoever offers come in. Although if offers come in, you have to take it seriously, right? Because unless you are Højlund, Mainu, Bruno Fernandes, De Ligt, Mazraoui, I think everyone's got a price on the head. Everyone.
I don't think Garnacho does. I think you got to keep him.
True, that's what. Sorry, I was looking. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Garnacho you'd keep, but I think everyone else potentially. I mean, people are talking about Xerxes leaving already, going back to Italy for like. So it's crazy. I'm just saying that.
Look, if we recoup our money for him, sure.
I mean,
but you're going to have to get that money back.
If there are 28 people in our squad, we probably keep 5 of them. And the rest, if a decent offer comes in... I mean, this isn't Championship Manager. I know this isn't realistic. I'm just saying they're available to be sold. We've got like 5 people that are guaranteed to not be sold. Everyone else is questionable. So we'll see. But yeah, I think Amarim's going to be impatient and want to get work straight away. Let us know what you guys think down below, by the way, right? This has been For or Against, and I've been this has been RedVsRed. I've been the Saffron Man, and I enjoyed that today, Sporadiclese. We kind of went through a lot. I think I'll give you... the Quiet January, but that was for me, wasn't it? I'll give you the Quiet January, but yeah, I really don't think Amarim's going to be very patient. I think he's going to do what he can, and he's got to generate his own funds. But unfortunately, we drew against Chelsea.
Be looking for that in the summer. In the summer, I think I think then we can seriously have a conversation about starting a revolution in terms of offloading players and bringing new ones in.
It makes sense, but I don't think he's that patient. We'll see. We've got PA OK. Just a quick little preview of what you think is going to happen midweek, Sporadiclese. Your video is going to be on the Friday. I'm going to be doing the match preview on the Tuesday for this one. But a quick prediction. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, look, I've mentioned it before in this episode that we tend to have an uptick in performance whenever a manager gets sacked, and I think the players are going to come out and get us our first win in the Europa League. I think hopefully it'll be a convincing one. I'm not convinced that it's going to be a convincing one, but I think we're still going to get the win. I'm going to go with 3-1.
Yeah, I don't really care of the result. I just want to see some youngsters play. It's PAOK at home. We haven't won in Europe in over a year. We're lacking goals. We're lacking mentality. Let's give some of these youngsters some hope. Let's get them some minutes that they deserve. Let's play Harry Amass. Let's play Fitzgerald. Collier's injured. It's fine. Give Wheatley a start. Like let's give Højlund a break. I mean, surely we got a left.
Give our first team a rest. Absolutely.
Just make it happen. It doesn't like RUUD has got a couple of games left. To leave a mark. Let him be known to be the manager that gave such and such an opportunity or such and such a start. Like it just, yeah. If it's frustrating me that we've got the best youth academy probably on the planet, if not close to it, and we're giving none of these guys opportunities, none of them a chance to be squad players or fringe players or anything like that. The bench isn't good enough. Let's give POK a showing at home with some of our young generation in amongst some of our elite players. Like, that's the experience of the cup. So If it was Champions League, I get it. Maybe you'd think about it twice, but come on, this is Europa League. Let's make it happen. I've had fun this week, Sporadiclese. We'll catch you on Friday. You'll catch me on Tuesday. Make sure you hit all the subs and the follows and hit the notification bells when we post a video. You'll get notified straight away. And yeah, thanks for your support, and we'll see you guys next time. We've been RedVsRed. Till then, peace.